You know, she's one of those figures we all think we know. An icon, right? Her image is just frozen in time. But today, we're going to look past the legend and really dig into why Diana, the Princess of Wales, didn't just capture the world's attention, she completely, fundamentally changed it. And get this, here's the really wild part. From the day she got engaged to her tragic death, Diana was in the public eye for only 16 years. That is it. Just a decade and a half to build a legacy that's still going strong today. Which, brings us to a really fascinating question. If her time on the world stage was actually so brief, why is she arguably more famous today than she ever was? Let's break down how that happened. Okay, so it all kicks off with that storybook image the world just fell in love with, the fairy tale wedding. It was this whirlwind romance that grabbed global attention like nothing before it. And when I say whirlwind, I mean it was a total whirlwind. They met again in November 1977, and just a little over 3 years later, bam, the engagement's announced. And by July of that exact same year, they were married. The speed was just breathtaking, and it completely swept the public up in the romance of it all. And the scale of this thing, it was just mind-blowing. An estimated 1 billion people around the world tuned in on TV and radio. This wasn't just some royal wedding, it was a massive global media event. Really, the absolute peak of that whole fairy tale idea. But even with all that celebration, there were already these little red flags. During their engagement interview, a reporter asked a pretty simple question: "Are you in love?" And his response was, well, it was chilling. Whatever in love means. That was a major crack in the perfect facade, and it was right there from the very beginning. But it's actually from those cracks in the fairy tale that the legend we know today was born. This is where Diana really found her footing and became the people's princess. And in doing so, she completely redefined what being royal even meant. And man, did she get to work. During her marriage, Diana was the president or patron of over 100 different charities. This wasn't just some side gig for her. It was absolutely central to who she was. And the way she did it was by just tossing the old royal rulebook out the window. Think about it. In 1987, at the absolute height of the AIDS crisis and all the fear surrounding it, she famously shook the hand of a patient without wearing gloves. It was such a simple act, but it sent this incredibly powerful message of compassion. She didn't just lend her name to causes. She literally walked through active minefields to campaign for a global ban. She was out there fighting for the homeless, and she was so determined to give her sons a life that was as normal as it could possibly be. She used her platform in a way no royal had ever dared to before. So all of this incredible connection she had with people earned her that title, the People's Princess. And it wasn't an official royal thing, but a name that was actually given to her by the UK Prime Minister Tony Blair right after she died. And it just perfectly captured her unique, almost magical ability to connect with regular people, on a real human level. But while all this incredible public work was happening, her private life it was completely falling apart. And this brings us to the next chapter, a marriage in crisis. The story of when that perfect fairy tale started to unravel for everyone to see. And the difference between what we saw and what was really going on, it was just massive. The world saw this perfect royal couple totally united in their duty. But behind the scenes, there was constant, suffocating media attention, televised confessions of adultery, and just this deep, deep personal unhappiness. And the reality, at least according to her butler, was just brutal. Diana told him that Charles had said to her during an argument, get this, "I never loved you. I only married you to have children." I mean, what an absolutely devastating thing to hear. It just reveals the cold reality at the very heart of their marriage. So the public saw this whole thing happen in a few key steps. First, in December of '92, they officially announced they were separating. Then, in November 1995, Diana gave that now infamous, incredibly honest TV interview where she just laid out her side of the story. And by August of '96, the divorce was final. The fairy tale was officially over. And that, of course, brings us to the tragic final chapter of her life and her enduring legacy. We're talking about the death that truly, truly shook the entire world. It was August 31st, 1997. The news just flashes across the globe. A high-speed car crash in a tunnel in Paris had taken her life. She was only 36 years old. So what are the hard facts of what happened that night? Well, investigations confirmed that the driver, Henri Paul, had a blood alcohol level that was 3 times the legal limit in France. We know the car was being aggressively chased by paparazzi on motorcycles. And tragically, Diana, her companion Dodi Fade, and the driver all died in the accident. The reaction from the public was just immediate and overwhelming. The numbers alone tell an incredible story of global mourning. We're talking 32 million people in the UK alone watching her funeral. Millions more tuned in all over the world. And the personal tributes? Millions and millions of flowers created this literal ocean of grief outside her home. It was an outpouring of sadness on a scale nobody had ever seen before. But all that sadness, it pretty quickly turned into anger. And a lot of that anger was aimed at what people saw as a really cold and distant response from the royal family. For days, there was just silence from the monarchy. The public backlash got so intense that it actually forced the institution itself to change, to become more in touch with the feelings of the very people Diana had connected with so deeply. And Diana's influence on the monarchy, some people call it her haunting effect, it's still being felt decades later. Just take a look at this poll. In 2013, 60% of people felt Prince Charles made a positive contribution. Okay, but just 4 years later, a time that included the 20th anniversary of her death and a lot of media focus on their marriage, that number just plummeted to 36%. It really shows how her story continues to shape the public's view of the crown. So to go back to our original question, why is she more famous now than ever before? Because she was a fashion icon, a mother, a humanitarian, a rebel. She was the person who forced an ancient institution to finally start modernizing. In the end, maybe the best way to sum her up comes from her own brother, Earl Spencer, in his eulogy at her funeral. He called her the unique, the complex, the extraordinary, and irreplaceable Diana. And that, right there, is her legacy.